Alrighty, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we are building a meditation app using FlutterFlow and BuildShip for the backend. It's a simple app. Effectively, you just type in a keyword. I want it to be kind of themed around the jungle. Then we have a section here where you can specify how long it will be. I just have these little widgets at the bottom just to help show kind of what's happening, but you remove those, but just for the process of the tutorial, I find it quite handy. So let's just do a 30-second one. We click generate meditation. That will trigger the API on BuildShip here. This is just the workflow here. We'll step through how that works. Again, I've got a little pop-up thing for testing purposes. Obviously, I've got good spelling, as you can see. And then it generates the audio, and then that plays on this audio file player here, which is conditionally visible. So when there is the audio file sent back, then it will show.
Let's take a moment to find peace in the midst of the jungle. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in, feeling the fresh air fill your lungs. Now,
so that's basically it. And again, for testing purposes, this link here is just there so we can see what's actually happening. So that's the file stored on BuildShip. That's the link to it, which is being referenced from this audio player here. Okay, so FlutterFlow, BuildShip, and that's basically it. So without any further ado, let's kind of get stuck into it. So we'll start with FlutterFlow. So this is the basic UI. We have a text field here to specify the description of the meditation. We have a widget here, which is a radio button widget specifying the different time frames. We have a button. And then we have the audio player, and then at the bottom here we just have different text widgets which show. So this first one here shows the JSON response, a particular part of it. So the first item that's been returned, so that will actually be the audio file URL. This one just shows the widget state here. So if you can remember earlier on, when I click from 30 seconds to a minute to 2 minutes, this will change. And that's important because we use that as a variable in BuildShip to specify how long the text file will be for. So we take that information and pass that through to BuildShip from this widget state. And then this one here is the first list item. What's this one? Prompt response. Okay, so this is the first list item from the response. So that's the audio file. And this one here is the first list item of the prompt path from the return JSON. So that is effectively this widget state. So we use, if we come back here, you can see that this is jungle. So that's when this audio player plays the file. The name here is just the widget state from this. So that's kind of what it is. So if we generate a new meditation here using, say, ocean, then that will dynamically change on ocean, because we pass that through to BuildShip. And then, as you can see, when we get to that point, we then return that and the JSON, which we then reference in here. So that's the UI. Let's just quickly step through here. So that's just a basic text field widget. There's nothing kind of crazy going on there. No conditional visibility. That's just normal. This one here is no conditional visibility. We come down here, so we're just defining the options as kind of 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. That's all for that one. This audio player is conditional. So this is conditional based on the returned JSON body from the BuildShip API. So as part of the BuildShip JSON body response, there will be a JSON path called response, which will include the audio file URL. So effectively what this is saying is, if that JSON path is set and not empty, then show it. If it's not set and is empty, don't show it. And if it's empty, that just means that the response hasn't been returned yet. So that's basically that logic for the conditional visibility. And if you come down here, the title is the first list item. Well, this will make sense when we go to the API section, but this is dynamic based on the API response, JSON response. And then the path is also dynamic based on the JSON body API response, which we'll get to. And that's all for that one. This button here is Action Flow Editor. We are making an API call. There's two variables that we'll be setting up, the prompt. And the prompt is just getting that from the widget state of the text field, so here. So this prompt variable is going to be from this, effectively. Then we come back. The second variable duration is going to be based on the widget state again, but for the radio buttons. So the radio button, so widget state radio button. And again, that is just that duration variable will be based on whatever is selected on this. Coming back again. Yes, we make the API call. Then we come here, there's a conditional action. If a particular part of the JSON API response, if that is set and not empty, then we come here and it's true, and then we terminate, and if it doesn't, then it terminates. So I don't actually need really any of these, to be honest, but for testing purposes I just have them up just so that I can see what's going on. So while we're here, well, let's just correct that spelling there, and this one's bad, good and bad. All right, okay, so let's move on to that's basically the UI. We can clarify some more things later, but I think we need to move on to defining the API first, and then a lot of that will kind of make sense. So there's just one API, and we're calling that BuildShip Meditate GBT. It's a GET request. And this API URL is coming from BuildShip. Before we go to BuildShip, I'll just quickly show you the rest of it. So there's two variables set up, the prompt, which is a string, not a list. Then we have duration, which is a string and not a list. Then we have the query parameters, which we'll be passing through to the API called BuildShip. One is the prompt, and we're getting that from the variable prompt, and the duration query parameter will be getting that from the variable duration, which we've set up here. So these variables, as mentioned when we went through that action flow editor, this prompt variable we'll be getting from the text field widget. This duration we'll be getting from that radio button widget. And those, whatever that information, whatever the information in those variables are, they'll be kind of included. They'll be passed, included in this API call to BuildShip. Alrighty, so let's move on to BuildShip now. So just to give you a run through, this is what it is. So there's, for every BuildShip, there's a trigger. Ours is a REST API call. If you're setting this up from scratch, you pretty much start a new workflow, and it specifies what the trigger will be. So you'll include a REST API call as the trigger. give it a path. The path I've included is meditate.gbt method get. And then you can see here, this is the endpoint URL. So meditate.gbt. You can see that is exactly what that is. Okay, so whatever this endpoint URL is, you just copy and paste that here and you're good to go, assuming that the rest of the workflow is correct. So the next, once we have the REST API call set up, we can move down to the text generator. And if you add a new node, the most popular ones, you'll see text generator here. So you just click on that and then that will bring you up something like this. And all you need to do is add your API key. If you have it already kind of set up, you can just kind of click it. But if you haven't, you just kind of add your secret, add a new secret name, and then the secret value you just type in here. And then you can easily reference it later on BuildShip. But you get the secret value from your OpenAI account. So yeah, go to OpenAI, get that in the API section, copy and paste it in here. But I've already got mine set up, so I just click here and then just click OpenAI. The user prompt is essentially the prompt that we put in here. So this jungle, remember this is the user type set in the description field. We then use that widget state of this text field and pass that as the prompt variable, remember, into the API. And then when it comes to BuildShip, that will be based on, if you come here, where is it? Actually, if we come here, just to see, so if you come to edit, so when we're making that API request to BuildShip, in the query section, there will be query, and then there'll be kind of two what are they called? Objects? Not objects. Can't remember what they're called. Values under the query. There'll be query duration and a query prompt under this query section. So if you click the plus here, it'll be kind of here. So you can imagine prompt, prompt, and then query under this section here. But let's just delete that for now. So in here, we're doing query and then prompt. So this is a variable from whatever we pass into the API call as the prompt, that will be here. So in this case, we've got jungle. So this user prompt will just literally be jungle. That's what will be here. So user prompt is jungle. And then the system prompt is kind of the hard-coded prompt that every user prompt will be referencing. So in this one here, we have, as a guided meditation expert, your role is to respond to the user's concerns by crafting a personalized meditation session. The meditation session should last for approximately, and then again, similar to before, this is query dot, instead of prompt, it's duration. So that would be either 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. And it's just going to be passed in as a string. So this one here was 30 seconds. So this one, if we were to just read this as it would actually, as ChatGPT would read it, it would be the meditation session should last for approximately 30 seconds. Try and be as close to this duration as possible. Incorporate breathing exercises into the session to enhance the experience. If you kind of come here, I've just created a Notion doc with the code here. So I'll probably just make this public and you can have easily just copy these sections. So this is the JavaScript. So you can just like copy that, come here and just paste it in here and make sure that the JavaScript section is set up. just to show you how this works. So variables, if you come down here, because if you kind of did this kind of using these buttons here, you go to variables, you go to request, and then under the queries object would be where you see the that's where you would see the duration or the prompt. And I think because I haven't actually defined those inputs here, I think if I do query and then add kind of prompt here and then say prompt here, let's say, I set up the prompt and the duration actually in here. I'm not going to save it because I don't want to mess it up, but I'm pretty sure if I set that up in this REST API call, you actually should be able to reference it if you click on requests and okay, so yeah, I can see it. Yeah, see, I want to delete that though, because I don't want to. I'll delete that because I don't want to actually. I don't think I've prepared everything for that. But if you were to do this from scratch, you could probably include those inputs in the REST API call, and it just makes it easier to kind of reference later on. But I haven't set it up for that for now, but just bear that in mind that you can do that. Okay, moving on. I've changed this to 500 tokens. I think the default is no less than that, 200. But because I'm doing up to 2 minutes, I found that 200 tokens, it just kind of cuts off after a minute. So I just bumped up the max tokens just so that it can produce a longer script. And 500 tokens seems to be enough for 2 minutes. The temperature I just left at that. That just depends how creative it is. If it's 1, it's kind of more creative. 0, it's more kind of mechanical or calculated. And then I've just left it at 3.5 turbo. Return JSON false. Okay, so that's the text generator module. Now you come down to the next one. It's text to speech. Again, you just go to add node. It's a popular one, so just text to speech. Again, you pass through your API key. The model, this is just the default one. That works fine. The input text is we've got here. So the text generator object, which is returned from here. So if you come to this, you come to outputs, you can see here that it has a generated text output, the text generated by the OpenAI GPT API. So that is what you reference here. So you reference the output of the previous one, which is a string of text. So in here, click on here, pretty much go to variables and click on text generator, and then you're good to go. Voice, you can pick the voice. I just use that one. And then if you come here, similar thing, if you go to outputs, you can get a glimpse of what will be outputted after this module is run. And in this case, they call that output a speech audio, and that is in a base64 format. Okay, so the base64 format, that informs what the next module will be. So once we have that audio file formatted as a base64 file, we then need to upload that to BuildShip's built-in storage. So you come here again, you go to add node, base, if you just type in kind of base 64, you can see this module here, BuildShip file storage, upload base64 file. And there's kind of 2 inputs that you need to deal with. One is the text to speech, which is is it? One second. Text to speech. Text generator. That's the previous one. Okay. The audio of the speech. Is that what it's called? Speech audio. I thought it would have been called speech audio. Anywho's, that's kind of what that's text to speech. Yeah, that's what it is. Text to speech, which would just be the output from this. And then the file name I've done as speechly.mp3. You can call that kind of anything, but I've added some custom code to this node logic here. If you click on this here, and brings up the node editor. I, with the help of OpenAI, made some adjustments to this, and I'll tell you what I'll step through what I did. So normally if you go with the default one, it saves the file as speechly.mp3. So if you come to BuildShip storage, which you can find by just kind of clicking on here, going to storage, it would save it just as the one file. So it's kind of just speech.mp3. So whenever you generate a new thing, it would just save it as the same file, which is okay in some cases and will save you some space. But when I was building it out on FlutterFlow, I found there was issues with, if you sometimes try to generate a new audio file and you play it, it just played the old one. So it had trouble kind of referencing because the URL was the same. So all I did here was change the code, the node logic code, so that the file name, there was just a kind of some randomness generated into the file name. I think it's just based on a timestamp. So if you come to the storage, you could see you've got speechly.mp3, which we have, in the file name here, speechly.mp3. And that's the file name. So that's speechly.mp3. But then there's a timestamp thing included. So every single time you run it and it generates a new audio file, that's saved as a new file within BuildShip. So that just means as well you can, you'll be able to, if you were to extend this app, you could save different audio files, kind of organize them in different ways, because each file is unique, and then you can add them to a database. I'm pretty sure BuildShip has a little built-in database, which is basically similar to Firebase. So you can only do that if each file was unique. So this code here, you'll be able to do that. And again, I'll include that on the Notion public URL as well. So that's just this section here. Alrighty, so coming back, so that's that, and then that, when this module runs, that saves a new file, audio file on BuildShip. And then this module here, which is just a return module. So if you come to add node return, this is what the information that will be returned to FlutterFlow. So I've made some just small edits here. All I've done is just added this, pretty much what I want, the information that I want back. So there's a response path, which is I'm referencing the base file. So this is just the URL. So these are all stored on Google Cloud. They all have a URL. So that's what is. So the response path will be response and then a URL string. And then the second one is prompt, which is just going to return what the original prompt was. So in this case here, it was jungle. So it will just return jungle or whatever was the word there. And while we do that is we just reference that. We literally only use that so that we can reference that in the name of the audio player here. So jungle. We do it this way as opposed to the widget state because, once you click generate meditation, you might start including a different word in there. And, if we change this to say ocean, and the audio file still playing jungle, then you get a mix match between the audio file and the widget state here. So by referencing this prompt, then you're just making sure that the response and prompt are always kind of relating to the same thing. Okay, so that's the workflow. You ship it by just going here, shipping, and might take a little while. And that's the endpoint URL, which is just the same as that. And normally what I do is you can test it within BuildShip as well. So I normally test it on BuildShip, and I also test it I test the API actually on here as well. So let's just do that, do both of those tests. So we'll start here. So test, and again, we're passing through two queries here. We're passing through a prompt and a duration, which again this is the prompt and this is the duration. So let's just do, something to the ocean. We'll keep it small. So we'll just do 30 seconds and then we will test the workflow. Let's just make sure. Yeah, that's still fine. We'll test it. You can actually see which module is currently working. So that's past that section. Now converting that text to speech. So it's processing. That's passed. Finished. And you can see here, this is the response, and you can see that there is a response and then there's a prompt. So the prompt is the ocean, which is this, and then this is the response URL. So if we just copy that, come to...
Close your eyes and imagine yourself standing on a beautiful beach, feeling the warm sand beneath your feet.
Yeah, so that's the audio file, and you can see it's pretty accurate, around 30 seconds, which is good. So that's a green tick, so that works. So now let's just try it on FlutterFlow. So we'll come back to the same API. We'll come to, all the variables are set up, prompt duration. We come here. So this time we'll do, let's do rainy day. And then we'll do this 1 minute, see how close it can get to 1 minute. And doing it on this one is actually good because you can visualize actually what the API URL will look like. So you can see here, this is the endpoint, Meditate GPT. But as we add the variables, the queries, you can see that they just get added to the end of the API. So we've got the Meditate GPT. And then what's happening here is each query is just added to that URL string. So you do a question mark, and then you do the first query, which is prompt, and then equals whatever this is, rainy day. And then for the next one, you just do an and then the duration equals whatever it is, minute. Yeah, so this is kind of good to visualize actually what it is, what's happening. So let's test this out. We could also see as well how close it gets to actually 1 minute. And this one ends in 650, so that's the previous one. So we'll come back here and just see Speechly. We'll come down to, how's this ordered? Maybe it's the top. Just to see if it's added. Speechly. $6.50. Yeah, I wish we could sort by date added. But anyway, you can see it's added here, and these are all different variations. Okay, coming back, this will be done now. Okay, so the body JSON response, and then the prompt. So let's just copy. Let's just do a click here, and then do a holding shift click here, copy that. Let's test to see.
Let's take a moment to embrace the tranquility of a rainy day. Close your eyes and find a comfortable position.
Okay, so we've got rainy day, close to a minute, 50 seconds. That's good enough. Let's close both of those. So that works. The last thing we want to do with setting up the API is, now that we've tested it, we can see the paths that get returned. So let's just do path. Why can't I see it here? Oh, let's do it again. I think if I exit it, it removes it. But pretty much once you test it, you should get a list of recommended paths down here. I think it's, yeah, okay. Because I've already added them. But let me just like, for example, if I delete this. Okay, yeah. So that's, yeah, let's just delete them so we know what's happening. So when you test it, you can, at the bottom, you have some recommended JSON paths that you can save, and it makes it easier to reference in your app. So we want to do both of these. Add JSON path. Call this one response prompt. And what we want to do is include them as a list. Include both of them as a list. And then you'd save. But I've already saved it, so I'm just going to cancel that. Just keep it as is. So that's the API call done. So just coming back here, just to go through the UI elements that were referencing the JSON response, they should all make more sense now. So if we come to the audio player, list is not empty. So we come to the JSON body. Remember, the JSON body is the response from the API. So it's either the prompt or the duration. We click on predefined path. There's only two predefined paths that we had outlined, response and prompt. And all we're doing here is the response, is it set and not empty? That means, is the information, is there an audio file there? If there is, then show the audio player. If there isn't, don't. That's the conditional visibility. And then this here, the title again is just the prompt. I found that if you don't include it as a list, then you can't, then these options are limited here. So by including it as the list and then just doing it as the first item in that list, then that seems to work. There's probably like a workaround, not a workaround, but a simpler way to do that. But I found, by having it as a list and then just referencing the first item in that list, then I get more options for this. But there's probably something I'm doing wrong. But anyway, that's how I am doing it at the moment. And then the path, so what is the audio player playing? That's just the response. So that's this. So that the response is a list of strings, and then this is just the first item in that list. And in this case, there's just a list of one, but this is the first item in the list. That's what it'll be playing. And then that's that. We can, and when you're doing it, you can delete these. These are just for testing purposes. And then just here, so prompt, text field widget state, duration, radio button widget state, list is not empty. We just went through that. That's just the predefined path response. Is there something in there? And then what we can do is just remove these because we don't actually need those anymore. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all of it, I'm pretty sure. So you've got the FlutterFlow. We've already tested it out. I might actually let that load for a bit. That's the BuildShip. And what I'll do is once so I'm not sure if I mentioned, I've got the custom code kind of for this. It's easy enough just to kind of look at it and add it yourself, but you can literally just copy that here. This is just actually how the hard-coded version of these. I'll include that in the Notion. But yeah, that's everything. If you have any questions, let me know. If you want me to do like a more kind of complex version of this, maybe, we could integrate it with the BuildShip kind of database and start saving the different audio files into different categories. Kind of anything like that. Just let me know, and then we can do another tutorial. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.